Hello and welcome back to the channel. As you can tell, I've got my book and I've got my therapy friends. So without further ado, shall we begin? Hope you remember where we were, because I'm not going back, alright? I'm not going back. Now, last time I gave a little lesson on the subject of consent. Now hopefully none of you needed it, but if you did, please bear that in mind, alright? I cannot stress how important that lesson is. How to stay in the adult. The adult develops later than the parent and child and seems to have a difficult time catching up throughout life. The parent and child occupy primary circuits, which tend to come on automatically in response to stimuli. The first way, therefore, to build the strength of the adult is to become sensitive to parent and child signals. Aroused feelings are a clue that the child has been hooked. To know one's own child, to be sensitive to one's own not okay feelings, is the first requirement for adult data processing. Being aware that is not my not okay child makes it possible to keep from externalizing the feelings in actions. Processing this data takes a moment. Counting to 10 is a useful way to delay the automatic response in order that the adult maintain control of the transactions. When in doubt, leave it out is a good practice for curtailing archaic or destructive child reactions. Aristotle claimed that the real show of power is in restraint. The strength of the adult shows first also in restraint, in restraining the automatic archaic responses of parent and child, while waiting for the adult to compute appropriate responses. Parent signals can be monitored in the same way. It is helpful to program into the computer certain adult questions to apply to parent data. Is it true? Does it apply? Is it appropriate? Where did I get that idea? Where is the evidence? The more one knows the content of parent and child, the more easily one can separate parent and child from the adult. This approach is the home remedy of sorting yourself out. It is precisely the process required for developing the adult. The more sensitive one is to one's own parent and child, the more separated, autonomous and strong becomes the adult. One way to practice identifying the parent and child is to monitor the internal dialogue. This is relatively simple, inasmuch as there are no external demands for response. One has time to examine the data. When one feels badly, gloomy, regretful, depressed, one can ask the question, why is my parent beating on my child? Internal accusatory dialogues are commonplace. Bertrand Russell wrote about Alfred North Whitehead. Like other men who lead extremely disciplined lives, he was liable to distressing soliloquies, and when he thought he was alone, he would mutter abuse of himself for his supposed shortcomings. When one is able to say, that is my parent, or that is my child, and one says it with the adult, so by the very process of questioning, one has shifted to the adult. One is able to feel immediate relief in a stressful situation simply by asking, who's reacting? As one becomes sensitive to one's own child, one begins to become sensitive to the child in others. No man loves the man he fears. We fear the parent in others, their child we can love. One helpful practice in a difficult transaction is to see the little boy or the little girl in another person, and talk to that little boy or girl. Not in a condescending way, but in a loving, protective way. When in doubt, stroke. When one is responding to another's child, one is not afraid of the other's parent. An example of talking to the little boy appears in Adele Rogers' St. John. Sorry, that's one name by the way, I just worked it out. Adele Rogers St. John's. A long name. Suitable for the American continents, I think. Big names for a big country. In her book Tell No Man, wherein Hank Gavin says, I had a sort of sight of her through what she was now. I'd had this happen a couple of times on big deals with men. Heads of companies. I got a sight of them as though I were seeing through, and there was sometimes a kind of strange, wistful, desperate fellow like the kid he had been when he went fishing with angleworms. That may sound far out, that it had happened a couple of times, and I'd made a pitch too through that fellow, and it worked. That fellow was the child. Another way to strengthen the adult is to take the time to make some big decisions about basic values, which will make a lot of smaller decisions unnecessary. These big decisions can always be re-examined, but the time it takes to make them does not have to be spent on every instant in which basic values apply. These big decisions form an ethical basis for the moment-to-moment questions of what to do. Conscious effort is required to make these big decisions. You can't teach navigation in the middle of a storm. Likewise, you can't build a system of values in the split second between your son's statement, Johnny punched me in the nose, and your response. You can't carry through a constructive transaction with the adult in charge if basic values and priorities have received no thought beforehand. Now, are you with me so far, people? Okay? So I can get that a bit more centralized, that's better. If you own a cruiser, I presume they mean the boat kind, you become an expert navigator because you have acquired yourself with the consequences of being a poor one. You don't wait until the storm hits to figure out how to work the radio. If you have a marriage, you become an expert partner because you have acquainted yourself with the consequences of being a poor one. You work out a value system to underlie your marriage, which then serves you when the going gets rough. Then the adult is prepared to take over transactions with questions such as, what's important here? The adult functioning as a probability estimator can work out a system of values that encompasses not only the marriage relationship but all relationships. Unlike the child, it can estimate consequences and postpone gratifications. It can establish new values based on a more thorough examination of its historical, philosophical, and religious foundations for values. Unlike the parent, it is concerned more with the preservation of the individual than with the preservation of the institution. The adult can consciously commit itself to the position that to be loving is important. It's always important to be loving, people. Never ditch love, alright? The adult can see more than a parental mandate in the idea it is more blessed to give than to receive. Now that is very true. I'd argue that when you give because you want to give, not because you wish to receive back. If you give purely to receive back, then you're not really giving. In my opinion, that is. The kind of giving which is adult is reflected upon by Eric Fromm. That's Fromm with 2 M's and an F. The most widespread misunderstanding is that which assumes that giving is giving up something. Being the pride of, sacrificing people whose main orientation is a non-productive one feel giving as an impoverishment. Just because it is painful to give, one should give. The virtue of giving to them lies in the very act of acceptance of sacrifice. For the productive character, giving has an entirely different meaning. Giving is the highest expression of potency. In the very act of giving, I experience my strength, my wealth, my power. This experience of heightened vitality and potency fills me with joy. I experience myself as overflowing, spending, alive, hence as joyous. Giving is more joyous than receiving, not because it is a deprivation, but because in the act of giving lies the expression of my aliveness. Are you with me, people? I hope you are. This kind of giving can be a chosen way of life. This choice can underlie all decisions as the adult asks, what is important here? Am I being loving? Once such value decisions are made, one can constructively intercept. Where did you hide the can opener? And proceed with a day-to-day strengthening of the I'm okay, you're okay position. Now I'll address this enough, people, okay? If you can't find the can, do not ask your partner where they hid it, because you're likely to get a sarcastic answer. Just ask where it is. Don't use the word hide, because that's accusatory. Okay. In summary, a strong adult is built in the following ways. 1. Learn to recognize your child. its vulnerabilities, its fears, its principal methods of expressing these feelings. 2. Learn to recognize your parent, its admonitions, injunctions, fixed positions, and its principal ways of expressing these admonitions, injunctions, and positions. 3. Be sensitive to the child in others. Talk to that child, stroke the child, protect the child, and appreciate its need for creative expression, as well as the not okay burden it carries about. 4. Count to 10. Count to 10 if necessary, in order to give the adult time to process the data coming into the computer to sort out parent and child reality. Now I like this one. What it's essentially saying is, stop and think. Stop and think. I like that. 5. When in doubt, leave it out. You can't be attacked for what you didn't say. Now that's not true, you can. Very rare situations, but there can be situations where you should say something. It's like if someone says a really, really whole thing and you should really call them out for it. Then you can be accused of something you didn't say. But those situations are very rare, and it's not talking about that. It's talking to the moment where you're in a conversation and you choose not to say something that could be hurtful or insensitive. Number 6. Work out a system of values. You can't make decisions without an ethical framework. How the adult works out a value system is examined in detail in Chapter 12, Parent, Adult, Child, and Moral Values. And that, people, brings us to the end of the chapter. Now, we're going to cut this short tonight because we've reached the end of the chapter. I don't see the point in carrying on. Or at least just reading a tiny bit of the chapter. But you are getting some new diagrams. So let me quickly show you. See? New ones. We ain't seen them like this yet. So, with that in mind, I hope you've enjoyed this session. I hope you've learned something. I really do. I hope you're well, and I hope you're all, each and every single one of you, taking care of yourselves, alright? So until next time, you take care, okay? Bye.